This is how the magnificent Dame Angela Lansbury described her wonderful calling, and she certainly achieved that in every project she worked on. Recent revelations through interviews with her 3 children, family, and her own digging help give insight into why she hated the fame and attention she earned. How did severe loss play her since childhood, and just how did she rescue her daughter from the infamous Manson family? I'm your host with a heartbreaking answer to all these questions and more, including the way acting saved her after terrible loss. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps. And subscribe to the channel so you catch all our trips down memory lane. But now, without further ado, be our guest into this deep dive for you, I guess. Did Angela Lansbury have a twin sister? Early life, even before entering the spotlight, Angela had a life like something out of the movies. Everything began picturesque. Her family spent weekdays in London and enjoyed weekends in a quaint farmhouse in Oxfordshire. Then came circumstances beyond any of their control. Angela was just 9 years old when her father died from stomach cancer. The loss, obviously, crushed her to the point that the little girl retreated into herself and began to play pretend, as different characters, all as a coping mechanism. She would call this loss the defining moment of my life. Nothing before or since has affected me so deeply. With Dad's death also came financial hardship. Everything about this new life was unfamiliar and full of loss. Her mother began seeing someone else just to get things a bit more stable for them. And eventually they got engaged. Thanks to this, Lansbury would become very familiar with being in a blended family, gaining a half-sister and twin brothers. In defiance of her early loss, Angela had an insatiable zest for life and all its wonders. She read every book she could get her hands on, learned all sorts of subjects, and above all else, she watched movie after movie to the point she was a proud, self-proclaimed movie maniac. This helped a bit when tragedy struck once again when her grandfather died, but her life would be upended yet again when the Blitz hit England. At one point, her school had to be evacuated. Danger was so close. After that, the family decided the safest choice was to relocate to America. Remembering this near brush with death, Angela once said, "We didn't really understand how crucial that journey was, or how immense our demise might have been." In fact, the very same day the family left via Liverpool, it was bombed. Marriage. How old was Angela Lansbury when she got married? Over and over, Angela crossed some major milestones when she was very young. Just a teen when she lost loved ones, she found herself uprooted across the globe. She was only 17 when she appeared in her very first feature film, Gaslight, which put her opposite the imposing and regal star power of Ingrid Bergman. But I think she definitely held her on. So began a career spanning over 70 incredible years, and 19 years old she allowed, and on top of this controversy, her husband, actor Richard Cromwell, was 15 years older than she. Maybe unsurprisingly, the marriage didn't last, and within a year they split. It turns out Cromwell was gay, and he married Angela, basically to pass this straight. But for Angela, things were very real. She once said, "I had no idea that I was marrying a gay man. I found him such an attractive individual, a very glamorous person. He knew everybody. He was a friend of Joan Crawford's, these people who I was fascinated by as a young actress." So when he just walked away, she was shocked. The whole thing would be a mixed bag of emotions. She had no regrets about the marriage, but she did hate how bad Cromwell felt for being who he was, and at the end of the day, it became great platonic friends. Cromwell also befriended the guy who became Angela's true love. It was through work that she met actor and producer Peter Shaw, while they both worked for him in GM. The two married, and this time, they never looked back. They became an ideal power couple, and they won custody of Shaw's son from a previous marriage. That's on top of the 2 kids they had together, Anthony and Deirdre. 3 reasons. What were the 3 reasons why 1970 was a traumatic year for the Lansbury family? Angela's still good at what she does. It's like she was born to act. But everyone who knew her knew she hated the fame and the worship that came with stardom. She valued her privacy. Angela, who maintained British, Irish, and American citizenship, worked very hard to balance work and family life. She once called it a juggling act, saying juggling marriage and children and problems with drugs. It's simply a question of facing up to certain aspects of family life, and they've had a lot to deal with. The Manson family, specifically in 1971, Peter had to undergo a replacement. Then, the family's Malibu home ended up completely burnt down in a brush fire. Angela used this as a chance to get her family away from the prying highs of Hollywood, something that became a top priority when her kids both developed drug problems. They uprooted their lives again and settled in Ireland. But fear followed hot on their heels. The drug situation with her kids got worse to the point that Angelo took a year off to help them. Angelo was a self-described homebody, so she was in her element. He weighed just 120 pounds. The man was fading fast, and then came every parent's worst nightmare. Anthony suffered an overdose and fell into a coma, but Angela wasn't done worrying for her children. She was far from it. Was Angela Lansbury's daughter in the Manson family? How did Angela Lansbury save her daughter from the Manson family? Angela knew her children were in trouble, and she pointed to the environment as the significant source of their troubles. They were totally unable to self-destruct, so she wanted to put as much distance as possible and move the family to Ireland. She explained, "I was drawn to Ireland because it was the birthplace of my mother, and it was also somewhere my children wouldn't be exposed to any more bad influences." She basically exiled herself from her glamorous career she built. When Angela moved, her film debut earned her an Academy Award nomination, and she won a Golden Globe and several Tony Awards. But her stepson was spot on when he said, she always put family first. Angela recalled, "I refused all work for a year and simply kept house. I bought Elizabeth David's books and learned how to cook properly. It was a wonderful time in my life." She also cut off Deidre from her credit cards. Now, Anthony straightened out pretty quick, but Deidre took a bit longer. But as Angela's concerned, better late than never because, as she puts it, "I have no doubt we would have lost one or both of our two if they hadn't been removed to a completely different milieu. We were so very, very lucky. We spotted